The Jem'Hadar's awakening of the ancient human fleet was a decision they would live to regret. Novak, the Jem'Hadar leader, had given the order in a desperate bid to turn the tide of their unwinnable war against the ruthless Krogans, believing the legendary combat prowess of the humans could save his crumbling empire from certain defeat. When the stasis pods opened on the human flagship, Captain Jeffrey Henry and his crew found themselves abruptly thrust into a strange new galaxy, disoriented and struggling to comprehend their situation. Transported to the Jem'Hadar capital world of Karshan, they were greeted by Novak with a mixture of reverence and subtle condescension. The Jem'Hadar explained the desperate circumstances that led them to awaken the humans, appealing to their sense of duty and honor to join the fight. But Captain Henry, a seasoned strategist, recognized the underlying duplicity. The aliens planned to manipulate and control the humans, exploiting them as mere pawns in their war. As Captain Henry worked to orient his people to this unfamiliar galaxy and the high stakes of the conflict they'd been thrust into, tensions quickly rose. Cultural misunderstandings and the condescending attitude of the Jem'Hadar bred resentment among the human crew. And as word of their revival spread, drawing the attention of Krogans and other intergalactic powers, battle lines were drawn. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Jem'Hadar were about to learn the true cost of underestimating human ingenuity and resolve. For in their desperate gamble to save themselves, they may have just unleashed the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. As the human fleet acclimated to their strange new reality, Captain Henry wasted no time in setting his plans in motion. He summoned his trusted second-in-command, Commander Jack Novak, to his private quarters aboard the flagship. "Commander, I have a critical mission for you," Henry said, his resolute expression fixed on Novak. "I need you to assemble a team of our best operatives and infiltrate the Jem'Hadar Command Center on Karshan. We need to know what these aliens are really up to and what kind of galaxy we've awakened to." Novak nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. "I'll get right on it, sir. I know just the people for the job." Within hours, Novak had gathered his hand-picked team. Lieutenant Alan Rhee, a brilliant but unconventional tech specialist known for his ability to hack any system, and Sergeant Mike Thompson, a battle-hardened combat expert with a talent for improvisation in the field. As the covert ops team made their preparations, Captain Henry retreated to his quarters, his thoughts turning to the past. He recalled the fateful day when his father, Admiral George Henry, had made the momentous decision to place the human fleet into stasis. Earth had been on the brink of annihilation, overwhelmed by a relentless alien onslaught. In a last desperate gamble, Admiral Henry had convinced the planet's leaders that their only hope was to preserve their best and brightest in a hidden fleet, to be awakened when the time was right to reclaim their place among the stars. Jeffrey Henry, then a promising young officer, had been chosen to lead that fleet into an uncertain future. Now, as he stood on the precipice of a new era, the weight of that responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. On Karshan, Commander Novak and his team moved silently through the shadows of the Jem'Hadar Command Center. Bypassing security with Rhee's expert hacking skills, they delved deep into the aliens' data networks, uncovering evidence of the Jem'Hadar's true intentions. The aliens had been concealing the full extent of their advanced technology, seeking to keep the humans dependent and under their control. But even more shocking was the discovery of an ancient artifact known as the Kronos device, an object the Jem'Hadar believed could turn the tide of their war against the Krogans. As Novak's team downloaded the sensitive data, alarms suddenly blared through the complex. Jem'Hadar security forces closed in, plasma rifles blazing. The humans fought their way out in a desperate, close-quarters battle, their superior training and quick thinking proving more than a match for the aliens' brute force. In the chaos, Rhee managed to plant a backdoor in the Jem'Hadar communications network, a secret link that would allow the humans to monitor their supposed allies' activities. Returning to the flagship, Commander Novak briefed Captain Henry on their explosive findings. The Jem'Hadar's duplicity now confirmed. Henry knew they needed to act quickly to secure humanity's future in this treacherous galaxy. He ordered his crew to begin covertly studying and reverse engineering every scrap of advanced technology they encountered, aiming to rapidly upgrade the fleet's capabilities. The humans would need every advantage if they hoped to survive the mounting threats on all sides. But even as the fleet worked in secret to enhance their power, a new danger was emerging. On the Krogan homeworld of Tuchanka, word had reached the brutish aliens' leadership of the humans' successful infiltration of the Jem'Hadar Command Center. War Boss Drogon, the supreme Krogan commander, recognized the potential threat the ancient human warriors posed to his species' ambitions. He summoned his most cunning and lethal subordinate, a battle-scarred female Krogan named Skarath, and tasked her with a critical mission: observe the humans closely and assess their capabilities. As Skarath departed Tuchanka with a crack team of Krogan commandos, bound for Kar-Shan and a fateful encounter with humanity, the galactic balance of power continued to shift. For Captain Henry and his crew, the path ahead was fraught with peril. Caught between the machinations of the Jem'Hadar, the brutality of the Krogans, and the enigmatic lure of the Kronos device, they would need every ounce of skill, courage, and ingenuity to navigate the dangerous currents of this strange new era. The ancient human fleet had been reborn into a galaxy on the brink of war, and the choices they made in the coming days would determine not only their own fate, but the destiny of all sentient life in the cosmos. Captain Henry stood at the viewport of his flagship, watching the stars streak by as the human fleet pushed deeper into uncharted space. The weight of recent events pressed heavily on his mind when a sudden alert from the communications officer broke his reverie. "Sir, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from an unknown source," Lieutenant Chen reported, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Henry strode to her station. "Can you trace it?" "Negative, sir. The signal's origin is masked." "Put it through." A flickering hologram materialized before them, revealing a tall, slender alien with iridescent skin and large, multifaceted eyes. "Greetings, Captain Henry. I am Zek of the Kelthar. We have much to discuss." Henry's eyes narrowed. "How do you know who I am?" "We have been observing your recent emergence," Zek replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. "The Kelthar have long hidden ourselves from the conflicts that plague this galaxy, but recent events have forced our hand. What do you want?" "To offer you knowledge, Captain. Knowledge of the Kronos device, and an alliance against our mutual enemies." Henry's pulse quickened. This could be the advantage they needed. "I'm listening." "Not over this channel. Meet me on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Come alone and we can discuss the future of the galaxy." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Henry to ponder this unexpected development. After a moment of deliberation, he turned to his second-in-command. "Commander Novak, assemble your team. We're going on a little field trip." Hours later, Novak, Rhee, and Thompson crouched behind a cluster of crystalline formations on Nexus Prime's barren surface. The rendezvous point, an ancient, crumbling structure of unknown origin, loomed before them. "I don't like this, sir," Thompson growled, his rifle at the ready. "Smells like a trap." Rhee's fingers danced over his portable scanner. No life signs detected, but there's some kind of energy interference. Could be masking biosignatures. Novak nodded grimly. "Stay alert. A piercing shriek cut through the air as a barrage of plasma bolts erupted from hidden emplacements. The human team scrambled for cover, returning fire as a squad of heavily armed Krogans burst from concealment. "It's an ambush!" Novak shouted, ducking as a bolt sizzled past his head. A massive, battle-scarred female Krogan stepped into view, her eyes gleaming with predatory satisfaction. "Greetings, humans. I am Skarath. Your presence is required for questioning." Thompson's eyes blazed with fury. "Like hell!" He lobbed a plasma grenade, the explosion temporarily blinding their attackers. "Fall back," Novak ordered. The humans retreated under heavy fire, their superior training and reflexes keeping them just ahead of the Krogan onslaught. As they neared their cloaked shuttle, Thompson stumbled, a lucky shot grazing his leg. Skarath bore down on him, massive jaws open in a triumphant roar. In a lightning-fast move, Thompson drew his combat knife and plunged it into the Krogan's eye. Skarath howled in pain and rage, giving Novak and Ree the opening they needed to drag their comrade to safety. The shuttle rocketed into orbit, leaving the furious Krogans behind. As Ree tended to Thompson's wound, Novak sent an urgent transmission to the flagship. Captain, mission compromised. The Kelthar contact was a ruse. We were ambushed by Krogan forces led by an operative named Scareth. Returning to base now. Henry's voice crackled over the comm, tinged with both relief and concern. Understood, Commander. Get yourselves home. We have bigger problems. Back on the flagship, Henry paced the bridge, his face a mask of barely contained anger. The Jem'Hadar are making their move. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet heading our way. It seems Novak has decided to try and put us back in our place. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. The vast Jem'Hadar armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. Henry's eyes hardened. All hands to battle stations. It's time to show these aliens what humanity is truly capable of. The space around Karshan erupted into chaos as human and Jem'Hadar ships clashed in a furious battle. Energy beams lanced across the void, while swarms of fighters engaged in deadly dogfights. On the bridge of the Jem'Hadar flagship, Novak sneered at the human fleet's resistance. Crush them! Show no mercy to these primitive... His words were cut short as a blinding flash lit up the view screen. A small, sleek human vessel had slipped past their defenses, unleashing a devastating new weapon that shredded through the Jem'Hadar shields with minimal resistance. Novak's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible! How did they... The bridge doors exploded inward, and Captain Henry strode through the smoke, flanked by a team of heavily armed human soldiers. It's over, Novak. Surrender now, and we might let you live. In the hours that followed, as the last pockets of Jem'Hadar resistance were mopped up, Henry stood before the assembled alien leaders on Karshan. His voice rang out, firm and resolute. Today marks the birth of a new order. The Terran Alliance extends an invitation to all who seek peace and progress. Join us, and together we will forge a brighter future for this galaxy. As cheers erupted from the crowd, Henry caught sight of Commander Novak's grim expression. They both knew that this victory was just the beginning. Somewhere out in the vast expanse of space, the Krogans were mobilizing for war. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the fate of countless worlds. And at the center of it all stood humanity, no longer pawns, but the architects of their own destiny. The dust had barely settled on Karshan when the cracks in the newly formed Terran Alliance began to show. Captain Henry stood at the head of the conference table, his eyes scanning the faces of his most trusted officers. The tension in the room was palpable. Our victory over the Jem'Hadar was just the beginning, Henry said, his voice firm. We must secure our position and expand our influence if we hope to survive in this galaxy. Sergeant Thompson leaned forward, his scarred face set in a hard expression. We need to strike first, sir. Show these aliens what humanity is capable of. Dominate or be dominated. Lieutenant Rhea shook his head. That kind of thinking will only breed more enemies. We should focus on diplomacy, building alliances with... With what? Thompson interrupted. The same aliens who tried to wipe us out? Who lied to us and manipulated us? Enough, Henry said, silencing them both. We need unity now more than ever. Commander Novak, what's the status of our outer colonies? Novak's face was grim as he pulled up a holographic display. Not good, sir. We've detected a series of hit-and-run attacks on our fringe outposts. Casualties are high, and the local alien populations are growing restless. The room erupted into heated debate, with Thompson's faction pushing for aggressive retaliation, while Rhee argued for a more measured approach. Henry watched the growing divide with growing concern. As the meeting adjourned, a slender alien with mottled green skin approached Rhee. Lieutenant, if I may have a word, I am Zaltok, representative of the Nar Collective. We are troubled by the recent violence. Rhee nodded, his expression softening. Of course, Zaltok. I assure you, we're doing everything we can to protect our allies. Unknown to Rhee, beneath Zaltok's benign exterior lurked the cunning mind of Scareth, the Krogan operative. She had infiltrated the alliance with ease, exploiting their sympathy for alien concerns. Days later, alarms blared through the command center as reports flooded in of another devastating Krogan raid. Henry watched the tactical display with growing frustration as a human outpost on Viridian 3 went dark. "How did they slip past our defenses again?" he demanded. Novak frowned, studying the data. "I don't know, sir. It's like they knew exactly where to hit us." In the aftermath of the attack, Thompson confronted Ree in a crowded corridor. "This is what happens when we let aliens run free in our territory," he shouted, jabbing a finger at Ree's chest. "How do we know your diplomatic contacts aren't feeding intel to the enemy?" Ree's eyes flashed with anger. "You're out of line, Sergeant. My loyalty is to humanity and the Alliance." The two men were seconds away from coming to blows when Captain Henry's voice cut through the tension. "Stand down, both of you. This infighting ends now. We have a real enemy out there, and I need every one of you focused on stopping them." As the crowd dispersed, Scareth, still disguised as Zaltok, melted into the shadows. She tapped a hidden communicator, speaking in a low growl. "Warlord Drogan, the humans are fracturing. Soon they will be ripe for the taking." Miles away, in a secret facility deep within Alliance territory, Captain Henry stood before a massive view screen. The image showed a sleek, angular starship unlike anything seen before. "Is it ready?" he asked the lead scientist. The man nodded, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and fear. "Yes, sir. The Doomsday Cannon is fully operational. One blast could vaporize an entire Krogan battle fleet." Henry's expression was grim. "Let's pray we never have to use it." As the Terran Alliance teetered on the brink of internal collapse and external annihilation, Commander Novak pored over intelligence reports in his quarters. His eyes widened as he uncovered a trail of communications linking Lieutenant Ree's diplomatic contacts with known Krogan operatives. Novak's hand hovered over the comm panel, his mind racing. If this information was accurate, it meant Ree and his supporters were compromised, possibly traitors. But if he was wrong, acting on this could tear the Alliance apart from within. With a heavy heart, Novak made his decision and opened a secure channel to Captain Henry. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity in this hostile galaxy. Novak's hand trembled as he ended the transmission to Captain Henry. The weight of his decision pressed down on him like a physical force. With a deep breath, he stood and strode purposefully from his quarters. Within hours, the corridors of the Alliance flagship erupted into chaos. Heavily armed security teams moved swiftly, apprehending Lieutenant Ree and his closest associates. Shouts of protest and confusion echoed through the halls as bewildered crew members watched their comrades being led away in restraints. "This is madness," Ree snarled as Novak personally clasped the energy cuffs around his wrists. "You're tearing us apart based on lies and paranoia." Novak's face remained impassive. "The evidence speaks for itself, Lieutenant. You and your faction will face a tribunal for treason against the Alliance." As news of the arrest spread, the fragile unity of the human forces shattered. On a dozen worlds across Terran space, Thompson's hardliners clashed with Ree's supporters. Streets ran red with blood as former comrades turned their weapons on each other. Captain Henry watched the reports flood in with growing horror. The tactical display showed skirmishes erupting like a virulent infection across Alliance territory. He hit his fist on the console, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Damn it all! We're doing the Krogan's work for them!" As if summoned by his words, proximity alarms blared throughout the ship. A vast Krogan armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. At their head, a monstrous dreadnought dwarfed even the largest human vessels. "All hands to battle stations," Henry barked, his tactical mind already assessing their dire situation. "Concentrate fire on their flanks. We need to—" His orders were cut short as the first Krogan salvo struck. But instead of the expected energy beams or torpedoes, a sickly green mist erupted from the projectiles. Where it touched, Alliance ships began to disintegrate, their hulls corroding at impossible speed. "By all the stars," Henry whispered, watching in horror as the bioweapon tore through his fleet effortlessly. "They've weaponized it." On the bridge of the Krogan flagship, Warlord Drogan's massive form dominated the command deck. His scarred face split in a vicious grin as he watched the human forces crumble before him. "At last," he rumbled, "the galaxy will see these upstart apes put in their rightful place, crushed beneath Krogan boots." As system after system fell to the Krogan onslaught, Captain Henry realized the terrible truth. There was only one weapon in the Alliance arsenal that could possibly turn the tide. With grim tenacity, he opened a secure channel to Commander Novak. "Commander, I'm dispatching you on a priority mission to the Cauldron Nebula. You know what's there. It may be our only hope." Novak's eyes widened in understanding. "The Doomsday Cannon? But sir, the risks are less than the certainty of extinction if we do nothing." Henry cut him off. "You leave immediately. I'll do what I can to hold things together here." As Novak's stealth cruiser slipped away from the battle, Henry turned his attention to the heart of Alliance space. He needed to quell the infighting before it doomed them all. But even as he worked to unite his fractured forces, a part of him knew that the awesome power of the Doomsday Cannon might save humanity from the Krogans, only to damn them in the eyes of the galaxy forever. The Doomsday Cannon's blast illuminated space like an artificial supernova, vaporizing the heart of the Krogan armada in an instant. As the blinding light faded, Captain Henry stared at the view screen, his face ashen. The devastating power of humanity's ultimate weapon had turned the tide of battle. But at what cost? In the days that followed, an uneasy quiet settled over Alliance space. The Krogan invasion had been shattered, but the tensions within human society threatened to tear apart everything they had fought for. Henry stood before the Alliance Council, his uniform crisp despite the dark circles under his eyes. "We've achieved victory, but our real challenges are just beginning," he said, his voice steady. "The alien races we once called allies are withdrawing their support, fearful of our newfound power." Murmurs rippled through the assembled leaders. A stern-faced woman spoke up, her voice sharp. "And what of the internal strife? Lieutenant Rhee's faction grows bolder by the day." Henry's expression resolute. "We're taking steps to address the separatist movement, but we must be careful not to validate their claims of tyranny." As if to underscore his words, reports flooded in of riots on a dozen colony worlds. Footage showed crowds of humans clashing with Alliance security forces, their angry shouts echoing through city streets. In a nondescript holding cell, Scareth watched the chaos unfold on a view screen, her reptilian features set in a cold smile. The guard outside her door never saw the shadow that slipped silently down the corridor. There was a muffled thump, and then the cell door slid open. "Your timing is impeccable," Scareth said, rising to greet her Krogan rescuer. Free once more, the cunning operative wasted no time. Within weeks, she had wormed her way into the inner circle of the separatist leadership. Lieutenant Rhee, newly escaped from Alliance custody, welcomed her counsel eagerly. "The Alliance has shown its true colors," Rhee declared to a gathering of his supporters. "We must break free from their iron grip before it's too late." Scareth nodded, her eyes gleaming. "And I may have just the weapon to ensure our success," she said, producing a data crystal. "Something that will give us the ultimate advantage over Henry and his loyalists." As the separatists plotted, a new complication arose. A sleek, angular ship of unfamiliar design appeared in orbit around Earth, dwarfing even the largest Alliance vessels. Captain Henry found himself face-to-face with the representative of the Dralac Concordance, an imposing figure whose crystalline skin refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. "We offer you an alliance against the Krogans," the alien intoned, its voice resonating strangely. "But there are conditions. The Doomsday Cannon must be dismantled, and human expansion must be strictly regulated." Henry's mind raced, weighing the potential benefits against the obvious risks. "We'll need time to consider your proposal," he said carefully. In the privacy of his quarters, Henry opened a secure channel to Dr. Katerina Volkov. The scientist's hologram flickered to life, her sharp features set in a determined expression. "Doctor, I need you to accelerate your research on the Doomsday Cannon," Henry said without preamble. "We may not have much time before we're forced to give it up." Volkov nodded, her eyes gleaming with the challenge. "We're already making progress, Captain, but replicating such power won't be easy." As Henry grappled with these monumental decisions, the situation on the ground continued to deteriorate. Sergeant Thompson's hardliners, frustrated by what they saw as weakness in the face of alien demands, launched a series of brutal crackdowns on suspected separatist worlds. Reports flooded in of entire settlements razed, with Thompson's troops showing little regard for civilian casualties. The schism within the alliance deepened with each passing day. Realizing that drastic action was needed, Henry summoned Commander Novak to his office. The battle-hardened officer stood at attention, awaiting his orders. "Commander, I'm assigning you a critical mission," Henry said, his voice grave. "You're to track down and apprehend Lieutenant Rhee. We need to cut the head off this separatist movement before it's too late." Novak's eyes hardened with grit. "Consider it done, sir." The hunt was on. Novak's team pursued Rhee across a dozen worlds, always one step behind. Finally, they traced him to a hidden asteroid base deep in the outer reaches of Alliance space. As Novak's strike team breached the facility's outer defenses, they found themselves in a pitched battle with Krogan's shock troops. The base erupted into chaos, the air filled with the sound of energy weapons and the acrid smell of ozone. In the command center, Novak came face to face with Scareth. The Krogan operative snarled, baring razor-sharp teeth. "You're too late, human," she spat. "The weapon is already—" Her words were cut short as Novak's plasma blast caught her square in the chest. But even as Scareth fell, Rhee was already fleeing through a shimmering portal, some kind of experimental warp gate. In the aftermath of the raid, Novak stood before Captain Henry, his uniform still scorched from battle. "Sir, we failed to capture Rhee, but we did recover data on the Krogan's plans. They're developing a genetic weapon specifically targeted at humans." Henry's face darkened. "Then we have no choice. We must crush this rebellion before the Krogans can exploit our division." He straightened, his voice ringing with authority. "Commander Novak, I'm promoting you to the rank of Grand Admiral. Your orders are simple. Find Rhee and end this threat to the Alliance by any means necessary." As Novak saluted and turned to leave, Henry's gaze drifted to the window, where the massive Dralax ship still hung in orbit. The Concordance's ultimatum loomed, even as reports came in of renewed Krogan activity on the fringes of Alliance space. The coming days would determine the course of human history. Would they emerge as a shining beacon of progress, or succumb to the temptations of ruthless power? The answer, Henry knew, might well rest in his hands. Grand Admiral Novak's command shuttle cut through the inky void of the Lazaran sector, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. He stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the alien constellations for any sign of Rhee's passage. "Sir, we've picked up an energy signature consistent with the experimental warp gate," his tactical officer reported. "Coordinates locked." Novak nodded curtly. "Set course, maximum speed." As they approached the source of the signal, a motley collection of alien vessels materialized on their sensors. Novak's lips tightened. Rhee had been busy. "Open a channel," he ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the tentacled visage of a Zorak trader. Novak spoke carefully, each word measured. "We seek an alliance against a common threat. The human traitor Rhee threatens the stability of this entire sector." The Zorak's eyes narrowed, assessing. "And what do we gain from aiding the mighty Terran alliance?" "Protection," Novak replied simply, "and a share in the spoils when we crush Rhee's forces." A tense silence followed before the alien nodded its acquiescence. Similar negotiations played out across a dozen worlds as Novak forged a fragile coalition. Meanwhile, on the Alliance capital of Karshan, Captain Henry strode through the halls of the Central Command Complex, his face a mask of fierce dedication. The air crackled with tension as he passed squads of heavily armed security forces. He entered Dr. Volkov's laboratory, the acrid smell of ozone assaulting his nostrils. The scientist barely looked up from her work, her hands flying over holographic displays. "Progress?" Henry asked without preamble. Volkov's eyes gleamed with scarcely controlled excitement. "We've successfully isolated the primary energy matrix. Give me another week and I can have a prototype ready for testing." Henry nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. Good. We need... An ear-splitting explosion rocked the building, cutting off his words. Alarms blared as Henry sprinted for the command center, shouting orders into his comm unit. On the main display, he watched in horror as a small ship erupted in a ball of flame mere meters from his personal shuttle. Assassination attempt neutralized, sir, a security officer reported. But we've identified the perpetrators as members of the Free Karshan movement. Henry's eyes hardened. The situation was spiraling out of control. He keyed in a priority channel to Commander Logan. I'm promoting you to Supreme Military Governor. Lock down the planet. I want every separatist sympathizer identified and contained. Logan's voice crackled through the comm, cold and efficient. It will be done, sir. In the Lazaran sector, Grand Admiral Novak's fleet emerged from hyperspace above a barren, rust-colored world. Scanners immediately lit up with contacts, a hodgepodge armada of mercenary vessels and Krogan warships. All ships, battle formation Delta, Novak ordered, his voice steady. Prepare to deploy ground forces. The space around the planet erupted into chaos as energy weapons crisscrossed the void. Novak's ships, superior in both technology and tactics, steadily pushed through the defensive line. On the bridge of his flagship, he watched the tactical display with laser focus, coordinating the assault with precision. As the space battle raged, dropships screamed through the planet's atmosphere. Novak led the ground assault personally, his power armor whining as he charged through the acrid smoke of the battlefield. Energy bolts sizzled past his head as he dove for cover behind a twisted piece of wreckage. Push forward, he bellowed, leading his troops in a relentless advance towards Ree's stronghold. The air filled with the screams of the wounded and the staccato rhythm of weapons fire. Suddenly, a sickly green mist began to spread across the battlefield. Novak watched in horror as soldiers on both sides began to convulse, their skin blistering and melting. The Krogan bioweapon had been unleashed. Through the haze of poison and smoke, Novak caught sight of a familiar figure fleeing towards a waiting shuttle. With a burst of superhuman speed, he closed the distance, tackling Ree to the ground. The traitor's eyes widened in fear as Novak's armored fist connected with his jaw, knocking him unconscious. As Novak dragged Ree's limp form back towards the extraction point, the full magnitude of the disaster became clear. Hundreds lay dead or dying, their bodies twisted by the effects of the genetic toxin, and there was no cure in sight. Back in Alliance space, the news of the bioweapons deployment spread like wildfire. Alien populations, already chafing under human rule, erupted into open revolt. On a dozen worlds, the streets ran red with blood, as centuries of resentment boiled over. In the gleaming halls of the Central Command Complex, Commander Logan stood before a bank of holographic displays, his face illuminated by the eerie glow of tactical readouts. Captain Henry burst into the room, his expression thunderous. "What in the name of all that's holy do you think you're doing?" Henry demanded. Logan's voice was cold, devoid of emotion. "What needs to be done, sir? The Doomsday Cannons are our only option to re-establish control." "You can't be serious," Henry whispered, the blood draining from his face. "The civilian casualties are regrettable but necessary," Logan cut him off. "The order has already been given." As Henry watched in helpless horror, the displays lit up with the signatures of multiple Doomsday Cannon activations. Entire worlds vanished in a blinding flashes of light, snuffing out billions of lives in an instant. The Alliance had re-established its dominance through sheer, overwhelming terror. But as the weapons' glow faded, leaving only ash and silence in their wake, Henry knew that humanity had crossed a line from which there might be no return. The acrid stench of scorched worlds hung heavy in the recycled air of Grand Admiral Novak's flagship. His eyes, sunken from sleepless nights, scanned tactical readouts as another separatist stronghold crumbled beneath the Alliance's relentless assault. "Admiral," his XO reported, "we've captured a high-value target on Sizor 5. Eliza Graves, sir. She's being prepped for interrogation." Novak's lips tightened. "I'll handle this personally." In the dim confines of the interrogation chamber, Graves sat shackled, her defiant glare faltering as Novak entered. He circled her slowly, voice low and dangerous. Where is Ree? Graves spat blood. Go to hell, Novak. His hand shot out, gripping her jaw. You have no idea what hell truly is, but I can show you. Hours later, Graves's broken whisper echoed in the chamber. The Zarthai, they have technology beyond imagining. Ree plans to use it to reshape everything. Novak's blood ran cold. He keyed his comm. Get me Captain Henry, now! On Earth, Henry's face was grim as he absorbed Novak's report. He turned to Commander Logan, who stood at rigid attention. Assemble your best. You're going after Ree and this Zarthai technology. Logan nodded sharply. It will be done, sir. Days later, Logan's stealth craft emerged from FTL on the edge of a black hole system. Scanners revealed a sprawling alien structure, its architecture defying human understanding. All teams, prepare for insertion, Logan ordered. They breached the facility's outer defenses with surgical precision. As they pushed deeper, the air crackled with otherworldly energy. In a vast chamber, they found it, a shimmering construct of impossible geometries. The Cosmic Forge, Logan breathed. Suddenly, alarms blared. Ree's forces swarmed from hidden passages, energy weapons blazing. Logan's team fought with desperate ferocity, but they were overwhelmed. Through the chaos, Logan saw Ree himself dash towards the forge. Stop him, he roared, but it was too late. Ree activated the device, vanishing in a blinding flash. Logan felt reality itself. Twist. As consciousness faded, he activated his emergency beacon, praying his warning would reach Henry in time. On Earth, Henry staggered as the world seemed to shift around him. The Dralac ultimatum forgotten, he struggled to make sense of conflicting memories assaulting his mind. A technician burst into his office. Sir, you need to see this! On every view screen, Lieutenant Ree, no, Supreme Commander Ree, addressed the galaxy. Gone was the rebel leader. In his place stood a resplendent figure of authority. For too long, humanity suffered under the tyrannical rule of Henry and his cronies, Ree's voice boomed. But I have undone their crimes. A new era of peace and cooperation with our alien brethren begins today. Henry watched in horror as cheering crowds filled the streets, celebrating his own death decades prior. Only a handful of confused faces showed any recognition of the world that had existed mere moments ago. He keyed his personal comm, praying it still worked. Novak, do you read me? Static crackled, then a familiar voice. Captain, what in blazes is happening? The world's gone mad, Henry said grimly. Meet me at the old safe house. We need to go dark. As Henry slipped out of Central Command, he caught sight of his own face plastered on wanted posters. The captions branded him a war criminal, a butcher of worlds. He pulled his coat tighter, mind racing. Somewhere in this twisted new reality lay the key to unraveling Ree's manipulations. Henry would find it, despite the toll. The true battle for humanity's future had only just begun. Henry ducked into a narrow alley, his breath ragged as he scanned for pursuit. The wanted posters bearing his face seemed to mock him from every surface. He pulled a battered communicator from his pocket, keying in the encrypted frequency. Novak, status report. Static crackled before the Admiral's voice came through, barely above a whisper. Rendezvous secured. Dr. Volkov made contact. She's different in this timeline, but her brilliance remains intact. Henry allowed himself a small nod of satisfaction. Good. I'm en route. Stay alert. The safe house was a dingy apartment in the industrial district, chosen for its anonymity rather than comfort. Henry slipped inside, finding Novak and Volkov hunched over a makeshift workstation. Volkov's eyes widened as she saw him. So it's true. The great butcher, in the flesh. Henry's eyes hardened. Whatever you think you know about me. Save it, she cut him off. I've seen enough to know this reality is wrong. My data on the forge proves it. For hours, they pored over Volkov's findings. The Cosmic Forge hadn't created a new timeline from scratch. It had reshaped existing quantum potentials, which meant fragments of our original reality still exist, Henry breathed. We can restore it. Volkov nodded grimly. Theoretically, but we'd need to isolate and amplify the right quantum signatures. And for that, we need the Dralac Concordance's technology, Novak finished. Henry's mind raced. Logan? He has the skills to infiltrate their ranks. Days later, Commander Logan crouched in the shadows of a Concordance outpost. He'd expected heavy resistance. Instead, he found an uneasy gathering of Concordance officials and Krogan warriors. Logan edged closer, straining to hear their hushed conversation. Rhee's regime grows stronger by the day, a Concordance diplomat hissed. If we don't act soon, the Krogan commander growled. We are ready, but your technology is the key. Logan's heart pounded. An opportunity and a complication. He activated his comm. Sir, you're not going to believe this. In a hidden laboratory, Volkov worked feverishly to modify the stolen Concordance reactor. Henry paced nearby, tension radiating from every movement. How much longer? He demanded. Volkov didn't look up. Creating a quantum resonance chamber isn't exactly child's play, Captain. An alarm blared. Novak's voice crackled over the comm. Rhee's forces closing fast. Henry cursed. Volkov! She slammed a final component into place. It's now or never. Energy surged through the chamber. Reality itself seemed to ripple and tear. Henry felt a sickening lurch as space-time unraveled around them. When the world stopped spinning, Henry found himself back in the alien facility housing the Cosmic Forge. Logan stood before him, arm raised to activate the device. Rhee lunged forward. This time Henry was ready. He tackled Rhee, sending them both sprawling. The forge hummed ominously, its power building. Logan, shut it down! Henry roared. A blast of energy knocked them all off their feet. Through the haze, Henry saw Krogan warriors pouring into the chamber, weapons blazing. Fall back, he ordered. In the chaos, Henry caught a glimpse of Novak, surrounded by Krogan forces. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. Novak nodded once, then charged into the fray, buying them precious seconds. Henry staggered towards the exit, dragging a dazed Logan. As reality stabilized around them, the weight of what had just transpired hit him. They'd restored their timeline, but at what cost? And with Drogon now in possession of both Novak and the Forge. He keyed his comm. All units, this is Captain Henry. Prepare for immediate mobilization. We have a new threat to neutralize. Henry's comm crackled with urgent reports as his battered fleet limped into orbit around a desolate rock in the Omega sector. The remnants of the Alliance forces, scattered and reeling from the reality-warping conflict, slowly converged on their new makeshift base. In the cramped confines of his temporary command center, Henry's fingers flew across holographic displays, piecing together fragments of intel. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but a fierce commitment drove him forward. Sir, a young lieutenant interrupted, we've located Admiral Novak's data cache. Henry's head snapped up. Show me! The cache revealed a trove of encrypted files, meticulously compiled during Novak's captivity. As Henry delved deeper, his expression hardened. Drogon's interrogation techniques were laid bare in clinical detail, a tapestry of calculated cruelty that turned Henry's stomach. This is the key, he muttered. Logan! Commander Logan materialized at his side, face etched with exhaustion and awe-inspiring fury. Henry met his gaze. Assemble your best. We're going after Novak. Days later, Logan's stealth dropship hung in the inky void above a Krogan black site. Energy signatures pulsed ominously from the asteroid's core. 3 minutes to insertion, the pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Logan checked his gear one final time, nodding to his strike team. Remember, our primary objective is the Admiral. We get in, we get out. The moment their boots hit the ground, all hell broke loose. Krogan defenders swarmed from hidden bunkers, plasma bolts sizzling through the air. Logan's team fought with ruthless efficiency, their advance leaving a trail of broken bodies and smoking craters. In the heart of the facility, they found him. Novak lay strapped to a nightmarish apparatus, his once proud form reduced to a shell. Logan's medic worked frantically to stabilize him as the team fought their way back to the extraction point. Aboard the dropship, Novak's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and haunted. "Logan," he rasped, "the Forge! Drogon! Transcendence!" Logan leaned in close, straining to hear. "What about the Forge, sir?" Novak's words came in broken fragments, painting a chilling picture. Drogon sought to use the Cosmic Forge not just as a weapon, but as the key to the Krogan race's apotheosis. When they rendezvoused with Henry's flagship, the captain's face turned ashen at the sight of Novak's condition. He gripped the edge of the medbay console, squeezing hard. "Sir," Logan reported, "Novak mentioned something about a transcendence, some kind of evolution for the Krogan." Henry's mind focused. "Then we deny them at all costs." He turned to his tactical officer. "Plot a course for the Sephora system. We end this now." The journey to Sephora was a race against time. Henry pushed his fleet to its limits, arriving just ahead of the Krogan armada. As they dropped out of FTL, a collective gasp rippled through the bridge. The dead world below pulsed with an otherworldly energy. "It's already begun," Henry breathed. On the planet's surface, reality itself seemed to bend and warp. Entire sections of the landscape flickered in and out of existence. At the epicenter stood Drogon, his form radiating power beyond comprehension. Henry's forces clashed with the Krogan vanguard in a battle that defied the laws of physics. Star systems blinked in and out of existence. Entire fleets found themselves instantly transported across vast distances. In the midst of the chaos, Henry spotted a familiar face. Lieutenant Ree, once his sworn enemy, now fighting alongside Alliance troops against this greater threat. As Drogon's power grew, transforming him and his inner circle into godlike beings, Henry knew they had only one chance. He keyed his comm, voice steady despite the maelstrom around him. "All units converge on my position. We take down Drogon or we die trying." The final push began, a bold strategy against cosmic forces beyond imagining.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.